So this is the Korg MS2000B, released in 2000, or the B version was released in 2003, and this is the Roland JP-8000 released in 1996-97. And these are two virtual analog synths from the era of the big bad Japanese manufacturers getting into the virtual analog game. Of course, Clavia released the Nord Lead, which was the first virtual analog synth in 1994, and the Access Virus came out in 97. So this is very much the zeitgeist of the later 90s, the mid to late 90s, into the 2000s, all the way up till about 2015 or so. Were synthesizers that were completely digital, but had this sort of more hands-on control versus the more workstation-y stuff like the Korg M1. So if you haven't been here before, I'm Vulture Culture. We do this every Wednesday at 9, Scum Night. Check out different synthesizers and things like that. I love vintage synths. And so I'm going to jump right into it and get these synths initialized and then start comparing some of the stuff. So the way to initialize this is I'm going to go and find a patch I don't care about, and then we can go to edit and 16, initialize. Are you sure? Yes. And we should have a sawtooth here. Let's see. Right. And then same thing over here, over on the JP-8000, you can shift, initialize right, and make sure that everything's off. Let's turn the arpeggiator off entirely. And these should be matched in volume. You can hear a little bit of a tonal difference, so I'll turn this up a little bit. Let's see. There we go. How is everybody doing tonight? How's it going, Tiberian? Welcome to the stream. So I'm going to start talking about the oscillators and really do a deep dive comparison between these synthesizers. But before we get going, there is a box of cats somewhere dangling over a pit of alligators. And if you don't subscribe right now, smash that subscribe button. They're all dead. So no one wants dead pussy. Go ahead and hit that button. So let's talk about the oscillator section on both of these synths. Aquatic Borealis, welcome to the stream. How's it going? So we're going to check out first the sawtooth wave. Both of these synths are very similar in a lot of ways. They both have a bunch of digital oscillators. They both have filters that have high pass, low pass, band pass, and notch modes. I believe they both have all of that in 12 or 24-bit or decibel configurations. They both have 2 LFOs per voice and 2 ADSR envelope generators per voice. The biggest difference that you can say between these is that the 8000 has 8 voices and the 2000 has 4 voices, which is a major limitation. But this also has aftertouch and a vocoder, so there's a little bit of give and take. They both sort of represent where each company was at the time, which is mind-blowing that it's already 23 years ago or so. Pretty crazy. So, yes. Eating some pepperoni cheese bread from Little Caesars. Well, that's perfect. Let's get involved. So we're going to start with the sawtooth oscillator. And over here on the JP-8000, you can hear that it's actually quite darker. To my ear, it almost sounds like a little bit of sine wave mixed in. So listen for that if you can. Listen to how this sounds kind of more straight ahead sawtooth. It's much, much brighter, buzzier. Right? Versus over here. And don't worry, I went through and made sure that the filter was all the way open and everything. We could try it on 12 decibels per octave. Sounds the same. That's just the nature of how these synths sound. Now, as a little experiment here, I wanted you guys to hear the sound of some of the analog synths that these synths are emulating, perhaps. So we've got the Korg MS2000. Here's the sound of the sawtooth. right? I have a Korg Poly 6, the most legendary poly analog synth from Korg. Here's the sawtooth of that. Very, very, very dark by comparison. This is super bright compared to an actual Poly 6. The JP-8000 is somewhere in the middle. Right? But what's funny about that is a real Roland SH2 from 1978 sounds like this. So you can hear that the SH2 actually sounds more like the Korg. They have that same sort of bright sort of sound to it. And the JP-8000 has this darker tone, more like the Poly 6. So there's a little bit, even when we're comparing just the sawtooth, and I have the Chroma Polaris here, so why not hear this one? So I wanted to bring up that before we even get started, these synths sound really different in terms of just their starting sawtooth sound, but so do all of the analog synths. Like, none of them really sound all that similar. And I think sometimes it's easy to sort of imagine that there's a perfect sawtooth sound that an analog synth has. But in fact, they all sound a little different in this room. And it's going to lead to different places depending on where you start from. So real quick, guys, what do you guys think about the sawtooth sounds of this synth versus the sawtooth sound of the JP-8000? I think they sound pretty close. But obviously this is brighter. We could, of course, just bring the filter down, filter a little off, and get a much closer sound, right? A little bit more. Bring up the filter a bit. Yeah. I don't know. What do you guys think? You like the JP-8000 more? Yes, it's got a little bit closer to that analog sound, although I like the brightness of the MS2000B. Usually can't hear nuance over YouTube audio, but cool, every single one sounded different. Kenzie, there's a great video from Starsky Carr actually on looking at what the YouTube algorithm does to audio. And although, yes, YouTube audio is not always optimal, I am streaming at maximum audio settings. So you guys should be able to hear pretty good differences here as we go. Yes, definitely this is headphone stuff. So let's go ahead and talk about what each synth can do. So real quick, let's run through the oscillators of the Korg MS2000B. So that's the sawtooth wave. We can also move it over to, well, actually, let's stay on the sawtooth real quick, because we have these two control macros. It's a little bit hard for you guys to see all the way over here. Sorry about that. Hard to set up two cameras to be able to make this work. But I have two controls over this, which are, they do something to the wave. I read the manual before this, and it's actually funny how vague the manual was on what it's doing, but it modifies the wave somehow. It's interesting. It sounds like a flanger and then fades up to an octave above. And so that's a thing we can do. And of course, we can modify the LFO to control that. So that's the second knob. So it's like pulse width modulation, but it's different. And it is different too, by the way, than the Supersaw oscillator over on the JP-8000. So what I wanted to do was just go through the MS2000 oscillators, but actually I feel like this is a good moment to bring up the Supersaw oscillator over here. Obviously, the defining feature of the JP-8000 is the Supersaw. It's the first synth to really use it. So we start with the sawtooth. but we can bring in more waves. So this is maximum waves. And you can hear that with the detune all the way down, it's kind of this hollow sound. But once we've even brought the detune up to about 25%, we start getting really cool stuff, and we can take that extreme, to extremes. To where it's almost useless. I wanted to compare this, though, real quick over here. That even though we do have this sort of control over here, that it is not quite as thick as the Super Saw. Because I believe we are just modulating that wave shape there instead. So, yes. All right, moving right along, let's talk about the pulse width, or I'm sorry, the square wave / pulse wave / pulse width modulation wave. So that's the square wave. We can move over here to square on the JP. Right? So it's about the same. Actually, it's a little darker over here. Interesting that the sawtooth is brighter, but the square wave is darker. And we have control over the pulse width, so... So we can get that really thick, detuned, sort of faux detuned square wave sound. Sounds really good. We should be able to do basically the same thing over here by adjusting the PWM depth. And then that should be controlled by LFO1, maybe? So same thing. Let's see how that sounds over here. I mean, it's pretty much in the same ballpark. Interestingly, that that they do sound more similar when it comes to the square wave. Do a similar ARP sequence on both and slowly change the pulse width modulation. All right, let's see how to do that. So over here, let's go to the arpeggiator, turn it on, and we can control the gate here. So I'm going to latch it and just start this chord. So right now we're just listening to the square wave, but I'll add some pulse width modulation. All right, so there's that. Now if I go over here and same idea, turn on the arpeggiator, arp hold, tempo should be 120. Same idea. We can go audio rates with the PWM. All right, one more time over here to see. So you can hear we actually go much further with this LFO. Actually really cool. I don't even know what's going on there, but it's really neat. So yeah. So really quick little example of the differences. We are already starting to see that the LFO goes much deeper on the MS2000 than it does on the JP-8000. Yeah, definitely wild as that bent into audio rate. Yeah, really crazy. It's almost like ring mod. And then if you go like really fast, it just sort of cleans up because that differential frequency drops below the hearing spectrum. Yeah, really cool. Yeah, sounds really, really great. Not bad at all. So let's move right on to the triangle wave. So triangle wave being something like a sine wave, and that's like a very pure wave, but it has some odd harmonics like a square wave. So you get a little bit more than a sine. Let's go ahead and try the triangle wave out over here. Whoa. That's over on the JP-8000. Here we go, MS2000. So again, ironically, over here, once again, the MS2000's a little darker. To me, that's a little more muted than the average triangle. Well, they're similar. You can hear that this one's a little brighter. But I would say these are the most similar of the two waveforms so far. And so same thing, we've got sort of like wave folding on the triangle, like on the Korg Prologue. And then LFO control over that, so... Interesting way to add movement to the sound. Whenever I hear a triangle wave, it reminds me of my great-grandfather's home organ. Yes, I agree. I always think of the Legend of Zelda 2 Adventure of Link whenever I hear a triangle wave. All right, so similar thing. In this case, the triangle wave is sort of like bringing out other harmonics and not an octave up. Yeah, a little bit more of like a wave folding type sound. Over here. Wow, that's really retaining the low end more. Let's see, the JP's oscillator sound a little more clear so far. Is there a volume difference between these two synths at all? So I used integrated LUFS to get the volume of the sawtooths identical, but you can only match one thing. So the way that as we move, I'm trying to get these about right. This one's much more full sounding on this particular sound. So we have a sine wave as well. So let's go ahead and just so you can hear that. That's a perfect clean sine wave. And we do not have that on the JP-8000. So if you want a true sine wave, you're not going to get it, but what you do have is triangle mod. So this is that sort of, wave folding stuff. So really thin and, same type of idea. Where we've got that modified sound. So you get a little bit of differences too on what we have. Moving on, we've got this Vox wave. So check this out. This is really cool. That's not that cool, but once you start moving it, so it's like filter modulation, but you're getting much more of a, let's call it like 4-Manti filter type stuff. So you can put it halfway and then bring some of that LFO modulation in. Which is pretty neat. Let's see what else we have. So this synth doesn't have anything that's sort of like that, but what we do have is a feedback oscillator. So again, more chaos. So it's somewhere between like oscillator sync and ring modulation, which both of these synths have, by the way. Emmanuel Cote, welcome to the stream. How's it going? So let's go check out real quick what else we have here. This is really cool. We have the waveforms. We've got digital waveforms. I think there's 64 of them in the MS2000, and they are a la the DW-8000. I believe they are the waveforms from the DW-8000 plus another bunch of them. So let's check these out real quick. So these are generated by additive synthesis, like the K5000S that we had last week. So we're getting different waveforms. Little organy type stuff, you know? It kind of has a fifth in there. Well, that one's really cool. That to me sounds like with some modulation on the filter, you could get some really cool electric piano type sounds. Like choir type waves. Really cool. It doesn't like it when you wave sequence too fast. So yeah, that's a thing that does not exist at all over here on the JP-8000. Now, whether or not you actually find that type of thing useful, that's kind of like up to you a little bit. But what we do have over here is a noise oscillator. So let's go ahead and do that. Oh. So we've got white noise. Oh, it's interesting. I don't know if it's sampled or something, but it gets darker as you go lower. But then it's kind of normal up here. Let's move over to the noise over here on the MS2000. Same sort of architecture. It's really loud. We also have an extra noise oscillator here. And we have control over a low-pass filter. Sounds really good. one thing that I love about the MS2000 is the way the filter sounds. It sounds really good for a digital filter. Moving over here, we also have a much brighter noise oscillator, but we can filter that out. Same idea, we can add resonance. Really crazy resonance, actually. Let's hear how they sound on extreme resonance, both of them. It's crazy that that's a noise sound. Let's go out and crank this up. You hear the stepping more, it seems like, on that one. But I hear more intermodulation distortion a la aliasing on the JP-8000. So once again, it's a little bit of a back and forth. Let me intoxicate on a little alcohol real quick. Love alcohol. It is a good thing. So, moving right along, we have covered that. Now, on the MS2000, we have a vocoder in. We don't have that on the JP-8000. Completely separate feature. You could run all sorts of audio into this thing. And like I said, if we move over to the mixer section over here, all we have is an oscillator balance. On the MS2000, we have a true mixer section where we can control the volume of oscillator 1, oscillator 2, or an instrument, and noise. So even if we wanted to use sawtooth, we can still add noise on top of oscillator 1, oscillator 2, and noise. Versus over here, if we want noise and we want to do the same type of thing, where we go... We want to do that. There's no way to get noise into the system without actually selecting noise. So there's no way to have noise and that so far. Hey, 8080 for that, yo. So does the 8080 actually have a separate noise mixer in it? I'm not aware if it does. That'd be really cool though, because I could think of some examples of where I might want two oscillators beating against each other and then add a little bit of noise for that sort of breathy type thing. Definitely that's a no for the vocoder. Okay, so moving back to just a sawtooth, hopefully. Let's talk about the filter. So we have a few different types of filters here. Let's go ahead and do all of them real quick. Over here on the MS2000, we've got the low pass, which is what you've been hearing this whole time. Right? We've got a band pass. Oh, here we go. I need to turn that off. Now, what's interesting to me is that you still hear quite a bit through this filter, and it may be that Korg was trying to emulate the MS2000 filter with this synth. I don't really know. I think it would be fun when we have an MS2000 or MS20, that's what I meant to say, in the studio, compare the filters back to back and see if they actually sound similar. How many early trance songs have that windy noise intro? Absolutely. That's the thing. So you can hear that on the bandpass, even all the way down, we're still hearing stuff. Same thing on the high pass here. As far as like really clamping down on the sound, like a 24 decibel per octave analog filter, it doesn't really do that. Let's try the 24 decibel an octave filter, see what we get. I guess it does that. Immediate karma. All right, let's go ahead and crank the resonance to half mast, and see what we get. So here's the 12, here we'll start with the 24 decibel per octave, so sharper low pass filter. Actually, some very nice sing-songy harmonics there. Let's go back over to the JP-8000. And same idea. So let's put the 24-bit low-pass filter on with resonance at half mast and see what we get. What is going on, motherfucker? There we go. God, I hate the way that these faders jump on the synth. it goes to right there, it just cuts off, which is a shame, so. All right, so that's that. Back over here, just to refresh your ears. Listen to how much richer, how you get these beautiful sing-song harmonics out of it. That is glorious. All right, moving on to the 12 decibel per octave. Let's try that out. Not so different. Let's go ahead and just check that real quick over here and move that over to 12. And let's go ahead and dial the resonance all the way up on 24 decibel per octave. Hey, what's up, Pinto? Welcome to the stream, my brother. May I request another similar ARP while slowly changing cutoff and res, my good sir? Yeah, I think that's a good idea. I wish more faders were knobs on the JP-8000. They were too short of a travel and jump too much. I agree with that heavily. One of the biggest things that I don't love about the JP-8000 isn't the sound, isn't the yada yada yada, the stuff that synth people usually talk about. It's actually just the way the knobs react. And this is a good moment to actually go on a bit of a rant here. And by a rant, I'm going to try to keep it as short as possible. But comparing the build quality of the two, at first blush, I remember when I first got this synth, I was so excited for it because it had that Nostromo type look to it. But then when I started moving these knobs, I was like, these are the cheapest, smallest, tackiest knobs I've ever, out of all the synths I've ever bought. Like, these to me feel so cheap, and they could have put like 5 cents more into manufacturing this synth, and it would have been amazing to have some good knobs. Now, of course, you can replace the knobs. I've thought about doing it, but for the sake of this channel, I've left them original. But on the other hand, this synth has kind of like the opposite problem, which is the actual components and everything are fine. They're a little bit more plasticky, like the whole thing feels more plasticky, whereas it's just the knobs I don't like, which again, you can replace on the MS2000. But the problem with this synth is, of course, the way that these sliders actually interact with the sound and everything. It like, you get these jumps. Like, most of the travel of the filter is in just a little millimeters right here. You're either real low or real high. Like, we're already sub-bass at 50% and out of control above. So, anyways, really squeaky filter. Watch your ears. Dogs will cry. Right? That's how that sounds. Let's go ahead and check this out over here. Just for fun, same idea, max resonance and see what we get. Watch your ears. It's interesting because it's not nearly as aggressive as the JP-8000. You do hear the MIDI stepping though, so it's again, you kind of get these like one synth gets points for this, but the other one gets points for that. I don't like the MIDI stepping on this. James Davis, welcome to the stream. It is trippy as hell, I agree. My Husky did not like that much. Okay, we'll turn the resonance down on both of the synths. I'm not a huge fan of resonance, actually. I don't use it all that much, which is kind of funny. It seems to be what everybody cares about with these synths. Absinthe. Okay. Stepping is surprising. Welcome to the stream, Big Grime. Yeah, it's just the nature of these old virtual analogs, but they did some sort of slewing or something to the control over on the JP-8000, so you never notice those jumps. It's pretty good. I mean, it's definitely usable. I wouldn't really notice it, but, you know, in this case. Yeah, for me, the throw range on the knobs, the way that you have to go 50% of the way before you even begin to notice it, that kills it for me. Oh, you picked up an SQ80. That's awesome. Congratulations, James. That's fucking the shit. I love that. We're comparing two synths. One of them's getting sold already. Maybe I'm going to sell my MS2000 too, which, by the way, the link to, if you want to buy this JP-8000 right here, you can get it. It's the link is in the store. I think I'm selling it for like $700 or so, something like that. But if it's one of you guys, a YouTube friend of mine, I'd rather sell it to you cheaper than some rando. So anyways, I want to keep moving here. Let's compare with resonance at 50% the bandpass filter. Really nice and musical. Love that. Let's go ahead and same thing. Let's move on over to the bandpass filter. Let's see. What is the... it is 12 decibels an octave. So let's go ahead and compare that real quick, just to be fair. So, of course, I almost feel like I need to set up an LFO to actually test this out, but... because it's so bad on the JP-8000, I can't just do a smooth filter sweep. Really vowely again. High-pass filter, let's just go through these real quick. Now, it's interesting, it only goes up to a certain... it's clipped at a certain point. Right up there, it's more or less the same value. Let's see what happens over here on high pass filter. Almost the same thing. I want to see real quick if I can match that note. I don't know. There's something, I don't know. What do you guys think? Actually, real quick, I'm going to actually drop a poll in the chat. I don't get a chance to do this as often as I'd like to. But real quick, which synth has the better filter? Let's go ahead and write in the choices, JP-8000 or the MS2000. I'm just curious what you guys think. Go ahead, that should be in there. I don't know how that'll look, but I'm going to go and see if I can do... oh wait, no, come on. Here we go. Let's see what people say here. Let's see. I've always preferred the sound of the MS2000. Brain Palace, welcome to the stream. Damn, it's kind of a steal considering we've already had one cleaned up and serviced. Here's another interesting thing. While I'm waiting for the results on this, I would just like to ask you guys, actually, when I posted this stream on the Vintage Synths group on Facebook, and I was shocked that basically everybody said the MS2000 was trash and the JP-8000 was like the best synth of all time. Usually you get people from both camps, but in this case, it was like 100% JP-8000 is the best synth of its era and the MS2000 is terrible. And another thing, sure, I'll compare them again. That seems fair. So let's move just to the low pass filter, because I think that's the easiest to compare on 24. That way it's a little sharper. Let's go ahead and start. And maybe we can control it with... Can I control it with the LFO? That might actually even be fairer. So you can get a smoother sound from it. I will use a filter to give us that. Actually, that makes the most sense, right? So let's try and see what happens. Filter mod, sorry. So that is the 24 low pass filter, resonance 50%. Let's see if we can do the exact same thing with the filter here. So resonance 50%, low pass filter, 24 decibels an octave, and we're going to apply a lot of attack and release, and so we need to make the envelope depth as high as it can be. Let's see if this sounds about right. All right, let's see how they compare back to back. That was the JP-8000. Here's the MS2000. Back to the JP-8000. One more time with the MS2000. Big Grime says, I think the Microkorg damaged the reputation of the MS2000. Yes, it absolutely did, at least for vintage synth sluts. So for those of you guys who don't know, the MS2000 gave its engine to the Korg, or the Microkorg. The Korg Microkorg. And what that is it's that stupid little synth that you've seen all over the place. And that synthesizer is been used by every hipster band. And I have to say, this synth sounds pretty good. So maybe that's why the Microkorg sounded good. And of course, Korg just released it in the Legacy collection this year. So there's finally a VST version of the Microkorg. Now, they have different presets, because I was looking up to see if the Microkorg had the Icefields preset, which is my favorite preset on the MS2000. It was used in the Metroid Prime soundtrack. But you, in theory, should be able to recreate it perfectly with a Microkorg or with the Legacy Collection VST. So if you like the sound of the MS2000, it's there for you, just so you know. Let's see. MS2000 is a lot more aggressive and less pretty. I really loved how it had distortion and sequencer too. Yes, so this has distortion, this doesn't. That's another big difference there. We'll get into that. Charles, hey, welcome to the stream. Hey, VC, love your channel and the videos. The JP-8000 is pretty cool filter-wise, and it would be cool to add in the D50 focusing on it being a virtual analog thing versus the PCM side of it. Yeah, that is true. So really, the D50 is the first virtual analog synth, or digital analog, if you want to say that. Virtual analog is an interesting term because it really refers not just to the engine, but also to the fact that it has a shitload of knobs on it. So that's probably the distinction between something like the JP-8000 and the D50 is virtual analog, as coined by Clavia when they released the Nord lead, meant digital, but with a bunch of real-time control. And that's what you get with the PG-1000, which, by the way, I've bought one since the D50 stream, or the Roland Shootout stream, where I was just so impressed by the sound of the D50. I actually bought one, and I'm going to be doing some sound design stuff with that in the near future. So if you haven't yet, smash that motherfucking subscribe button. Alcohol. Let's see. I'm going to end the poll. We've got a 40% preferred the sound of the JP-8000, or technically 37%, and 62 preferred the sound of the MS2000. That's actually pretty cool. Let's see. Aquatic, who I respect quite a bit, likes the JP-8000 slightly more, especially on the upslope, but I'm not leaning too much based on just that comparison. I do not have a Yamaha AN1X yet. Oh, you never voted. Shit, sorry. I apologize for that. Real quick, just for fun, while we have it set up, why don't we try the bandpass filter, because that would be kind of cool too. So let's check this one out real quick. Uh, 12 bandpass. All right, so it sounds like the resonance is much more aggressive on the JP-8000 on this one. Wow, you really get those, like, how it picks apart those harmonics is, to my ears, very beautiful. Really hard to compare exactly, to be honest. They're different flavors, and they're not one-to-one. I would say, to my ears, I hear the filter more of the JP-8000. I hear that screaming resonance, whereas on the MS2000, I hear more of those harmonics being picked off. So let's try it one more time with the high-pass filter. Oh, whoopsie daisy. Let me set the resonance to 50% on both of them. Yep. Here's the high pass filter. You really hear those harmonics. Here is the high pass filter on the JP-8000. They're both really good. Machina, welcome to the stream. The digital sizzle. Yeah, so there's a little bit of like, which flavor do you prefer? I know which one I prefer, but it's more about what you guys prefer. All right. One other cool thing about the MS2000 is that it can do pretty much anything and sound decent. Pads, leads, ARP sequences. It's got enough bells and whistles to tackle it all. I agree with that. They both do, really. I think one of the biggest problems, JP-8000 is just coming in strong with the resonance. All right, why don't we try the resonance maxed on both of these guys, just for the shits and giggles of it. Because I actually, when I had the resonance up on the high-pass filter, I thought, woo, that actually sounds kind of good. So let's check it out. High-pass filter. Really interesting, not what I was expecting. Resonance all the way up on the JP-8000. That husky is screaming. So there's really a difference here. You lose a lot more signal. Let's back this off a little bit. I'm just enchanted by how you get those like pentatonic scale harmonics out of this filter. It's actually much better than I was expecting. You know, that is what it is. JP-8000 all day, my brother. Kills it all day. It's interesting. Interesting to hear the difference. So one thing I want to mention real quick, let's go ahead and move this back to low pass real quick. And I have a cheat on the MS2000. You have a distortion button. So that's something you do not have over on the JP-8000. Let's just check this out real quick because it's probably awesome. Really, really aggressive. So without, with it, it is such an aggressive distortion. I think you can probably go into some of the settings and actually control how aggressive that distortion is, but just like out of the box, it is so crazy. Without distortion, with distortion. And now, you know, comparing the MS2000 with the JP-8000, it's not a fair comparison because the JP-8000 doesn't have a filter, or I'm sorry, it has a filter, it doesn't have distortion, but versus yeah, you can really get, you know, pretty aggressive sounds out of both of them. So I guess the way you can think of it is the MS2000 has a slightly more sing-songy, less aggressive resonance type filter, but you've got that distortion button that you don't have on the JP-8000. And that allows you to take it a little bit further. Distortion makes it a big difference. Yes, and I want to say is that there is something to be said for the, I guess, how do I say this? This is resonance all the way up. Wow. Really just crazy with the distortion. You do hear that it could have used some aliasing up there. You hear the intermodular distortion. But you can hear that over on the JP-8000, by the way, too. Let's check it out. It's a little less dramatic without the distortion, but if I crank the resonance all the way up, well, I'm not really hearing it anymore. I want to make sure I'm not lying to you guys. I thought I could hear it earlier. Let's try it on, 24. Let's see if that does it. I'm not hearing it. I thought I heard it earlier, a little bit of aliasing as we approach that high end. So what aliasing is that as really super high frequencies start to cross the highest frequency that's allowable in a digital system, it will, the best analogy I've ever heard is if you've ever watched video of a car and noticed that the wheels seem to be spinning backwards. So what's happening is as the wheel speeds up, it will eventually, when it hits, let's say the camera's going at 30 frames a second. Well, when the wheel is spinning 30 times a second, it'll look like the wheel's just standing still because it completes a full rotation every time that camera snaps a shot. Well, once it goes above 30 frames a second or 30 rotations a second, now it'll actually start looking like it's going backwards slowly and then faster and faster. That's what's happening with aliasing as those frequencies get too fast, is the digital system can't reproduce them. So you can really hear at the top end here, especially with the distortion on, that you're getting more of that with the MS2000. But it's still really good. This distortion is like such an aggressive, like, I don't know, it reminds me of those guitar pedals from the 90s and 2000s that were just like crazy amounts of distortion. They usually had like death metal fonts on them or something like that, made by Boss and Digitech, and they just had that like way over the top distortion to them. And so that's a really cool thing that this synth has that this one over here doesn't. So yeah. Nah, pure tone with specific older pedals, my bro. Well, absolutely. I'm talking about with the aliasing, that's definitely a limitation of the MS2000. If you use those older pedals, you're not going to have that problem because a lot of them are analog or transistor based. But distortion, whenever you add harmonics in a digital system, you've got to alias them or else you're going to have that problem. But then again, Sound Toys Decapitator, probably the most used distortion plugin of all time by high-end mixing artists like Chris Lord-Alge and all of those guys. Guess what? No aliasing. So maybe it's not that big of a deal altogether. The Hoof by Earthquake. I don't know too much about that. Hey, Neil, how's it going? What's up, brother? All right, so we've spent enough time on the filter here. Let's go ahead and mess with the LFO. So let's go and turn this amount down. So we should just have nothing. Turn the distortion off too. All right, I want to see if I can control the cutoff of the filter with LFO 1. So let's see. Now, LFO1 has 4 shapes. It has triangle, sample and hold, sawtooth, down, and square. So here's each one of those. Triangle. Sample and hold. Oh, that's beautiful. Sawtooth down, so it'll be kind of like a pluck. Little click to that. Square wave. We're going to try and do the exact same configuration over here on the JP-8000. So let's see what's going on with the LFO. I want to try to get that about right. It's about in the neighborhood. So over here we have, I think, the same exact waveforms. So we've got triangle, we've got sample and hold. Very nice. We have also sawtooth down, so it should sound like a pluck. We've got square. I want to see if we can compare the pluck real quick. I think that would be interesting to hear the difference. I don't know if this is interesting to anybody else, but me. That Korg, though, is a juicy motherfucker. Yes. Hey, yeah, it does bring me back to the EBM scene as well. Symphonic Destruction from Heaviosity, talk about aggressive. Yeah, Heaviosity is no joke. Yes, 40 Thieves, welcome to the stream. Oh, you've already been here. I'm fucking so stupid. Hello. But yes, that's the best example I've ever heard. I can't take credit for it. Warmer Mid Lows, the two synths you have here are a genius pair. Sounded like a Wipeout track. Chinos, welcome to the stream. Hearing the different age variants of both synths filter chips, goddamn fine art curation. Yeah, so here is the pluck over here on the JP-8000. That is not the pluck. Here is the pluck. To me, it sounds better or more linear than the pluck over here. Let's see. Maybe it's just a resonance. Versus this. Let's try it with no resonance just to compare that. Over here. Yeah, I definitely think it's more useful on the JP-8000. So this would be an area where if you're trying to, you might want to use the LFO almost like an arpeggiator, right? Because what you can do is, you know, kind of do sequences with that as like a pulse. Right? That sort of a thing. And those differences in how the filter and the LFO interact are actually pretty significant when you get there. On the other hand, let's try to get some sample and hold comparison. This is the low pass filter, 24 decibels per octave, cutoff and resonance at 50%. And it just sounds amazing. Slazer X, welcome to the stream. Everybody knows the JP-8000, but the MS2000? Well, you guys have to let me know what you think about that. Welcome to the stream, Slazer. Let me know if I'm saying that correctly. Moving this over to sample and hold. Really different. I'm slightly slower. Okay, so with them both in 24 decibel per octave low pass filter, this one's just darker. I need to adjust the cutoff to match them to make it fair. All right, so JP-8000. I also just think I need to bring the resonance down a bit. Very, very similar. All right, guys, it's another time for another poll. I'm curious what you guys think. Which has the better LFO? Here. Start a poll. LFO. MS2000 or the JP-8000. You guys let me know what you think. I'm going to drop that in there. Now, I think, for me, the sample and hold is just ridiculously gorgeous. I would love to have that sound like sort of for doing a soundtrack of a show from the 90s, you know? Like, it would be so beautiful and useful. And I just can't match it quite with this. because it doesn't pick out those sing-song harmonics as much. Conversely, though, if we move over to the pluck and we put both of these synths into pluck mode or down ramp mode or down sawtooth mode, then we get this. And over here we get this. It's definitely taking it further. I don't know. For there, they are very different, so it's a little bit hard to say what it is. Machina says both. Let's go see what's going on with the with this over here. Interesting. 7 votes. 71% say the JP-8000. Interesting. Very interesting. Together are genius, but the JP-8000, if you could only have one. By the way, who is everyone's favorite synth repair out there? Well, I can tell you mine would be Severed Machines down here in Florida. Absolutely couldn't recommend Ramiro highly enough. He's done all the repair on a bunch of the synths in this room, at least 6 of them, and I will be happy to give him more business. So severedmachines.com, I think it is. He's on Instagram too. Worth, if you can get a synth to him, he would be someone I would say you can trust. I think if you compare both section by section, the JP-8000 would win individually, but I think the MS2000 just has so much more scope for sound design that it makes a better synth for me. I sort of agree with that, Brain Palace. Michael Mays, I hate that I'm cooling on the JP for the MS. Like, I've always loved both, but... Oops, sorry, was distracted. Machina gives me the thank you signs. Chinos, sounds good, but I find FM synthesis more interesting to me. FM is super great. Super interesting because it is not easy to get your head around. So kudos to you, Chinos, for being good at it. I am not. K-Sound in San Mateo here in the Bay Area of California. Another good recommendation. All right, so we have kind of covered the LFO. Let's go ahead real quick and put the LFO just back into triangle real quick. One more thing to talk about before I close this off is how fast these can go. So we can take this much further, I believe, on the MS2000. And actually get some filter FM like Chinos is talking about. Let's go over here and see what the filter FM is like on the MS2 or fucking JP-8000. So I think as far as like actually doing filter FM, I mean, check that out. You can get some really cool tones out of the MS2000. So anyways, it looks like everybody has decided that the JP-8000 has the better LFO, but I would just like to say that the filter FM stuff you can do with the MS2000 is pretty cool. Yes. I agree the MS2000 seems like a better Swiss Army knife, but both depend on the job and the sound or the role you're trying to achieve. MS2000 is way more analog. Yeah, so that's also an interesting question about, like, what can you do with an analog synth versus a digital synth, and does it even really matter? For some people it does, and I do think that the filter on both of the synths is really good. Different strokes for different folks. I like the aggressive tones of the MS2000. Yeah, so you can definitely get pretty crazy with it. We've really gone into some weird territory here. So now what I'd like to do is actually just go to edit and initialize the program. Yes, I am sure, and we should be back to just a sawtooth, and we should be able to do the same thing over here and initialize. And what I want to do is, there's a famous patch on the MS2000 that I love, and I want to see if I can recreate it on both synths. Let's see. Mod sequencer adds a lot of crazy. It does matter because the electric charge it pushes. I agree with that, Machina. Jexus made a very good sounding patches for the MS2000. I'd love to check that out sometime. So I'm going to move the Ice Fields patch. Well, I guess I could just play it for you, right? Not a big deal. It's somewhere over here. Ice Field. Here, check this out, guys. It's neat. One of my favorite sounds. Really, really cool. But what I'm going to do is, again, just go in here and initialize the program and try to come up with my own sort of version of this with both synths and see if we can get kind of close. And because we've talked about the oscillators, and to me, the oscillators are kind of 6 1/2 dozen or the other. You might have preferred one or the other, but overall, I mean, they both kind of will get the job done. The filter, I think, is more consequential. The sound of the filters is very different. You get kind of the sing-songy thing with the MS2000, and the JP-8000, you get more of the harsh, aggressive Roland filter that has been made famous by so many synthesizers. So you kind of, you know, do you want that more like sharp SH-101 type sound, or do you want a more kind of musical type thing? Let's see here. What I just think of Madonna's Frozen. Yeah, it's funny. Ice Fields definitely has that nostalgia for me because of the Metroid Prime games. And that was the synth they used to do that. So what we're going to do is put both of the synths into noise mode here. And we will put this synth also into noise mode. Now, what's interesting about this synth is we can actually key track the noise directly from the oscillator here. So we can, by just cranking the resonance, we can actually turn this into a sine wave, right? Whereas we have to actually use the filter over here to do that. So what I'm going to do is try to tune that properly by using oscillator 2, which is a triangle wave over here. Oh, it's not letting me tune it. Can you hear how it's like not letting me get there? The MIDI resolution is not letting me. There we go. So tuning it an octave down, I was able to get it. So if I turn... So what I was just trying to do is, we know this oscillator's in tune. Now we have that oscillator in tune too. As we decrease the resonance, we get more noise. We really got to turn the volume up here. We could also just turn the keyboard up. So what we're looking to do, by the way, here with this type of patch, is to get kind of split the difference between noise, so just the sound of noise, and the filter squealing the pitch we want. And we can actually use oscillator 2 as well to sort of cheat a little bit more note in. We need a little bit more resonance because we're just... There we go, something like that. So that we have that pitch in there. Let's go ahead and try this over on the MS2000. Now, what do I need to do to get this right? Let's do the same trick. Let's pull the triangle wave. It's like a fifth. This is interesting. It's not, I was expecting it to immediately jump to being able to do that. Let's see. Oh, have a good night, okay, Brain Palace? Have a good night, Nikki. Yes. I definitely have to check it out, though. Let's go ahead and try and see if we can figure this out. Interesting that it doesn't seem to go as far as I want it to. Let's go ahead and try and see if we can mix in. I wonder if there's a setting in here I have to find. So, I mean, right away, the JP-8000 is coming out in the lead on creating a patch. Because with one oscillator, we can actually take it into that space. I love those sorts of noisy filter-based pad sounds, and I'm actually a little disappointed. It's a beautiful thing when they build a synth where if you just turn the keyboard tracking all the way on. Let's try it on the low pass. I wonder if there's a, I don't want to do that. Let's see. Any sort of easy way to go through here. I'm not going to fuck with that. Yeah, it doesn't really track. Yeah, it's just very hard to get that to sound right. Yeah, it's just immediately correct over there. Let's see. Spaceman, welcome to the stream. MS2000 is good, but I wish I had the 8080. Oh, yes. Let's see. Wish I had a radius to try. Wish I did too. I appreciate that, Machina. My electric bill's okay. Breakdancing. Korg is tough to program. Yeah, I'm super disappointed by the fact that I can't find the right setting on this. You can go negative with the keyboard tracking, which is cool. Let me think about this for a second. Could I modulate the cutoff with... Why don't we try... Okay, let's turn the keyboard tracking off here. Turn that oscillator off. And try modulating it with the virtual patch bay over here. So I'm going to select keyboard tracking, and we're going to set that to cutoff and see what happens if I turn that all the way up. That might have been the trick. Well, getting some really weird, cool stuff, but not... Really weird. Yeah, we're getting some cool stuff. All right, so let's go ahead and it sounds like I don't have enough. So I'm going to go to patch 2, select keyboard track, and go to cutoff again and see if we could just add more. So again, I'm going to tune it to this note. There we go. So we're on that note, so you can hear the triangle wave and the noises there. This might be it. I might have had to have used 2 virtual patch cables, right? Like, so it's like an MS20 where you have patch cables, so you have this virtual patch bay. I might have had to double modulate that cutoff frequency to actually get this right. It is mine now. I have successfully figured out the way to overcome this hurdle. It sucks that you have to use 2. It seems like it's just so simple to make it. Put 1 virtual patch cable in from the keyboard tracking to the cutoff, and it should just work, right? Really cool. Yeah, sounds pretty good. Moving back over to the JP-8000. Sorry, buddy, I didn't mean to leave you abandoned so long. But this just happens perfectly easy just by moving these knobs here. So you get a little difference. Pretty close now. Actually, now it's almost leaning more in the MS2000's favor, now that we've got them right. I think I like the sound over here a little bit more. All right, so we've got a pretty decent, whatever, noise oscillator sound. Let's go ahead and turn on modulation delay and see what happens. Not too much. Oh, God. Okay, so... now it's very stereo. Oh God, we are just losing control. Things are going insane right now. Oh my God. So I know there's... really weird shit. Did I just fall into the Matrix? Seriously. Moving over here, I have to say, like, okay, all synths should be like this. You want some chorus? Let's just turn up the chorus knob. You want some Delay, let's just turn on some delay. We've got time feedback level. Real easy to get there. I don't know exactly what's going on, and I feel like I have to go into the menu to figure that out. So, edit, common mode, assign, transpose, wave, type, level, mod effects, chorus, flanger. Oh, we can change it to an ensemble, right? So, wait, I don't want that. Stereo delay. Okay, how do we end up in delay? Okay, so I can do modulation or delay? Is that what's going on? Type phaser. Let's try to see if we get a phaser now. We do. Very, very weird. So I don't know, is it like you've got both on at the same time, but you have to kind of control that? And then we have to go back into the editor and kind of remember what we're doing, and then... Okay, I want a chorus flanger. It's not the end of the world, but it's much more menu diving to get a sort of a... And I don't love the chorus flanger off the box. Like if I just put it at 50-50... It's not that good. You have to turn it down to like 30%. And then the delay, same thing. You've got to kind of like set it up. And then if I move and select the type of delay, stereo delay, we can kind of get there. So, but like how much faster was it on the JP-8000? Put a little in. It sounds very pretty on both of them. It's hard to compare. Yeah, but I hate that. I wish they had just added a few more knobs to make the effects section easier. But what are you going to do? That's just part of it. So we've got this sort of wave, ice fields type sound. I don't know. I'm, both of them kind of have their advantages and disadvantages. And sorry that took a little bit, but I wanted to give you guys an opportunity to actually hear what it's like to make a sound with these synths versus just comparing the sound of the oscillators and the sound of the filters. I wanted you guys to be able to actually experience, okay, once you start adding all of the ingredients together, because synthesis is a lot like being a chef. You start with a bunch of ingredients, and each ingredient you treat differently, whether you bake it, or you saute it, or you blanch it, or you brine it, right? Every ingredient that goes into the final dish, you can treat differently. And so you can compare 1 to 1, and that's useful. I learned a lot about the filter on the MS2000. I found that I liked a lot more than I was expecting. But it also, at the end of the day, it's kind of like once you start stacking up everything, like the LFO, the filter, the oscillators, everything like that, can you create two sounds that are really good? You know, that's the hard thing. So let's initialize these again. Yes, I'm sure. Exit out. We should have a sawtooth. And we're going to do the same thing over here, right? Right, so we've got the same thing. Let's do another type of sound, maybe something that you guys would like. Does anybody have an opinion on what I should do next? If you guys would like a type of sound, I know what I could do, what I think would make sense. But if anybody has any ideas, I'll go ahead and make those now so you guys can compare the two. You guys let me know. Let me see if there's anything else I wanted to make sure I covered as this. So one thing is that the MS2000 has 4 voices and the JP-8000 has 8. Now 4 voices is more or less fine. Like I don't think anybody's noticed a whole lot of voice stealing while we've been doing this comparison. That, oh, it seems like I might have been disconnected for a second there. Sorry about that, guys, if that happened. Looks like I'm good. And then over here we could play as many notes as we need. You have to play 9 notes before you finally get any voice stealing. How's everything going? Is the cheat or the stream still going here? Let's see. Thought that was me. No, that was something on my end. I don't know what happened there. Okay, so why don't we do a badass, you know, sort of 303 type bass line. So why don't we start a arpeggiator and latch it. We can control the gate on this, which is nice. So we have how long that note is. And in this case, I'm going to do maybe, I don't know, a few notes here. Let's do, let's try these notes. And then I'm going to just move it to random. Just so we can compare the two synths kind of equally. Guess we have to go down an octave. Alright, so we're going to start with that, and we're going to start with a low... We're going to start with a low filter cutoff here. And then add some ADSR envelope generator 1 intensity. So we get a good pluck type sound. All right, so I'm going to just leave that on like very low volume, and we're try to do something almost the same thing over here. So we'll start with turning the arpeggiator on and put it into random mode and go, you know, something like the same type of thing. Something like that, right? And same idea, we're going to lower the cutoff, add some resonance, and then do some envelope depth. All right, so we've got one sequence over there. Let's see how this sounds. Let's see. Let's see here now. How's this sound? Obligated to do that. Yes. So we could do a super saw in a second, but we'll go ahead and try and see. Let's add some distortion and see where we're at. Wow, we're almost getting like kick drums out of this. Pretty crazy. Let's go ahead back over here. Now, we don't have distortion on this, so it's going to be hard to push the same level. It does have that Roland TB-303 thing though, right? Versus over here. Well, I mean, it's just craziness, right? I mean, almost to the point of like just utter chaos, right? Like, I don't know if I even like that much aggressiveness. So something to consider for sure. Cool video on making drums with the MS kick snare. Yeah, you can totally just kick that distortion on and make a whole lot of cool stuff. The filter just sounds so good with like this low distortion, right? Really crazy sounds for sure. So I don't know. I think that's a pretty good comparison. Real quick, guys, can I get some Scum keeps or Scum cells? I don't even know if I have them in here anymore. Let's see. No, we still got them. All right, guys. I want to know, do you guys think I should sell or keep the MS2000? I'm already decided to sell the JP-8000 because unfortunately I have too many Roland synths. I've got 7 vintage Roland synths. Some of them have to go. I can't just keep hoarding all of these. But this was a pretty cool comparison between the two synths to try to kind of pick apart which synth can do cooler stuff. I think, who was it who said that we should do the super saw thing? Let's see. Keep the MS2000. I appreciate that, 40 Thieves. You've got a fan. Let's go ahead and do one more edit. Initialize. Okay. Am I sure? Yes. Get out of there. Let's try to do a supersaw real quick. So we can kind of fake it by using this waveform, right? And then we can blend in a sawtooth. All right, and then let's go into effects, and what is that? So if I go to edit and I go to type chorus flanger, this isn't so bad. I'm kind of used to it. Yeah, so it's not that bad. If you just start on modulation, you can get that sort of sound immediately. Do I have that all the way up? That's about as much of a supersaw as I can get. Let's go ahead and initialize and create a supersaw very quickly. I have to say, the oscillator section I prefer on this just because you can get that noise keyboard key tracking thing immediately with this, and you have the supersaw, which sounds great at 50%. Like, I don't even have to try it out. All I have to do is do that, bring in a little oscillator up an octave here. And bring in chorus. All the way up, fuck it. And see how this sounds compared to the MS2000. Oh, a good example of the voice stealing, right? Over here. It's a little bigger. It's a little bigger on the JP-8000. Let's go ahead and move the semitone up. Let's see. Pretty close. It's a little less detuned, obviously. You don't have as many waves going on in here, but, you know, it actually sounds pretty good. Yeah, I don't know. What do you guys think? Good multi-mode filter on the MS2000. Would keep it unless it sells for a lot, like that Fizmo I sold for so little. Unfortunately, Spaceman, it does not sell for all that much. Yeah. Let's see. And you can polychain. That's a very good point, Michael. You can polychain this. So if you had like a rack version, you could connect them and then you'd get the full 8 voices. So that's a pretty cool thing. So if I go to delay here, and then I go and pick the type, and I go to stereo delay, now I'm controlling that, I think. Oh, interesting. The more you turn the knob, the longer it is. Let's go ahead. Here it's so much simpler because you just turn it on like that. Just like immediately works, right? Like, there's certain things about the layout of this I prefer. Distortion? That sounds really good, actually. Wow. Let's make it a pluck real quick. Same thing over here. Let's try it out and see what happens if I bring this all the way down, but bring this all the way up. Turn that off. Sounds good both ways. JP-8000 does sound more epic, though. I don't know. It's hard to say. Hard to say. Well, anyways, guys, it's been fun comparing these two synths. I would love to know real quick. Maybe I'll just put this in the chat one more time real quick while we're hanging out here. Let's go ahead and can I drop in one more poll? Which is the better synth? Is it the JP-8000 or the MS2000? What do you guys think? Real quick, before we close out the stream, what do you guys think is the synth that reigns supreme here? Oh shit, I didn't mean to end that. Totally ended that right before. Well, I guess you guys could just comment. Would keep JP-8000 2. I happen to have a JP-8000 that's a little wonky, so I'd rather set her free to someone who is willing to figure out what exactly is going wrong with her. The thing about these two synths too is, regardless of feel, like they both kind of have the plasticky thing, but everything on my MS2000 works perfectly, always has, just has this feeling of like, yes, this is correct. The JP-8000's been nothing but like a nightmare as far as getting it repaired, having it still not work right, things like that. And I remember even in Spectrasonic's Omnisphere's video talking about all of the synths that they were going to use for hardware integration. They didn't recommend the JP-8000 simply because it's known to be unreliable. So that's a thing that makes me very sad, unfortunately. Yeah, the 880 might be the thing. So it sounds like people have been saying that the 880 is the... they fixed a lot of the build quality issues with that. So I don't know. So I hope this was a help to somebody somewhere on comparing these two really cool virtual analogs. I like them both. I think they're both really cool for different things. Hard to exactly say what I think would be the perfect one. I would keep the MS2000 just because I like the crazy sounds, but patching it could be painful. So what's interesting is the virtual patch isn't that bad. It was the menu diving on the effects that I didn't care for. So, you know, and that's kind of... Once I kind of figured out it was button 12 and button 13, it wasn't that bad, though. Because now I'm just mod, button 12, delay, button 13. You know, that is what it is. You know, there's... Man, it is really hard. Everything about it, like, ultimately the filter on the MS2000, I'm really excited about after this stream because I wasn't aware of how great it sounded, honestly. Like, it sounds really good. I don't think I've ever heard a digital filter from this era that sounds this good. Nowadays, it's not that hard to make a good digital filter, but year 2000, yeah. You know, for this synth being almost 23 years old, right? Pretty crazy. The JP-8000, for me, the filter is a little lacking in my personal taste, but what's funny is more of you guys thought the filter sounded better. So, you know, there's no reason to think that my opinion's more valid than anybody else's, right? I mean, I think that you guys really know what's up. So that's a thing. The MS2000 has a vocoder. It has aftertouch too, by the way. Yeah, definitely, they're both cool. And if you're in the synth market, I have to say my recommendation would be the MS2000, simply based off of not the sound, not anything else, but the fact that I haven't had any problems with mine. It's been built like a tank. I hate these knobs, but they pop right off. You can get them off. Maybe I'll get them off some other time. They don't pop right off like the sliders on the JP-8000. That happened during the last stream we did with this. One of the sliders just slid off. But I haven't had any problems with this. So if you're interested in getting into classic virtual analog synths, this would be my recommendation, simply based off the fact that it's got the best build quality. I feel like it's going to go into the future the furthest. But especially if you're not as concerned about that, the JP-8000 sound, it's hard to argue with how epic that thing sounds when it's doing the supersaw thing. The part of the reason I don't love the JP-8000 supersaw is it's so simple. It's so easy to make a sound that just goes like, okay, you just turn the supersaw on and it sounds amazing, and then that's it. But it kind of becomes a bit of a one-trick pony because of that, even though it does have the really cool feedback oscillator and things like that. Whereas over here, I feel like I'm still doing synthesis, right? Like I feel like, oh yeah, this is, you know, I've got a bunch of different sounds I can make with this. But on the other hand, you know, the noise oscillator was amazing with the cutoff frequency and the resonance. That like immediately got me into doing the ice fields thing from the MS2000 immediately, whereas it was a motherfuck to get it to work over here. So again, it's kind of like shit. I want to really just go all in on saying the MS2000's better, but I don't know. There's certain things that are better on both, and it kind of sucks that I was hoping to leave this stream with a sense of like, oh yeah, I'm gonna sell that JP-8000, I'm keeping the MS2000 forever. Or, you know what? Already gonna sell the JP-8000, let's chuck the MS2000 too. I could use some more vintage analog synths or something. But I find myself being somewhat in between. I don't know what you guys think, but I'm kind of like, I'm a bit like, okay, this has its value, right? Like it's kind of got a thing, but it's not quite what I wish it was in the way that the 8000 really could be if the implementation, the build quality issues, and the way that the faders jump, if that was all fixed, this could be a really cool synth. But it's not, and this one, I'm convinced it never will be. Like, I mean, I'm sure there's like firmware updates and stuff you could do if someone's gone through, but I'm not aware, like, for instance, like the Akai AX60, the ranges on the knobs are kind of weird, like they are on the JP-8000. They go like way too extreme, way too quickly. Well, the Tontec mod allows you to dial that back. I'm not aware that anybody's done that same type of thing on the JP-8000. So it's just a, you know, it's a thing to think about. I think the MS2000 is just a little more unique sounding, but yeah, they're both cool for virtual analogs. That's my thing about the MS2000 to 40 Thieves, is that it does have like a unique thing, right? There's something, and this isn't the MS20, or I'm sorry, this isn't the JP-8000's fault, but it was just so overused by every trance DJ in the 90s and 2000s that it's kind of like the sound of it to me is like, okay, yeah, I've heard that before. The MS2000 makes me feel like, you know what? There might be some cool stuff in there I don't know about yet. And by the way, guys, I've said it before, but you can totally pick this up on the Korg Legacy collection. It's the same synth engine in the Microkorg. So you might as well, if you want to check out some of the MS2000 sounds, they're in the Microkorg. It's the same thing. Different presets, but the same synth engine underneath. So that's pretty cool. That's a neat thing. But Tiberian Fiend brings up that the Supersaw can't be beat, and that's true. You know, there's a reason the JP-8000 is what it is, and it's that fucking Supersaw is perfect. So on that note, guys, I am Vulture Culture. It has been a pleasure hanging out with you guys. It's been a lot of fun. I hope you guys found this useful. If you did, please like and subscribe to the channel. If you really want to hook it up, go ahead and hit that join button under the video and become a member. It is the best way to help support the channel. And I am the Vulture. You are the Culture. I can't wait to see you guys next week. Thank you so much. Thank you, Aquatic. Thank you to everybody who's been here tonight. Love and light, bitches. I am out.